This is the I Love Success podcast. I'm Peter Jarboh, and I have made a vow to myself to help as many people as possible to achieve their dreams. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to the I Love Success podcast. I'm super excited, super stoked. I get to travel the world virtually. I'm going to do that one more time. Hey guys, and welcome back to the I Love Success podcast. I'm super stoked because today I'm traveling all the way to Sydney, Australia, and I love Sydney. I actually became a world medalist in the Olympic Village 2012. I went to Bondi Beach. I had those blonde beers. Life was really, really awesome for me in Sydney. So I have great memories. So I'm always glad to go there. And today, obviously, I go there virtually, but it almost feels like I'm there. So without further ado, I just want to talk a little bit about the show. So what we're trying to do here for people that are new to the show, we are trying to redefine success. And how do I do that? I meet with people like today's guests and a whole bunch of other people, and they share open-heartedly. This is a show if you're interested in really growing, if you have big goals, big dreams, or if you want some type of change. So welcome to the journey. Welcome to the I Love Success podcast. If you're listening to us for a while, please reach out to me. I want to hear from you. I want to learn and see what do we do well. What are you struggling with? What are your dreams right now? So reach out to us, check us out on Instagram. It's my name, at Peter Jarboh, super easy to spell. Google might help you a little bit, or just email me at info@ilsuccess.com. Without further ado, let me present this week's guest. His name is Danny May, and he's the founder of Lingmo. That's a digital AI-powered translation software. And I'm super excited to talk about that because I grew up in Sweden to immigrant parents. Now I'm here in the US. So languages has always fascinated me. So super excited to speak with Danny, and his idea to develop a real-time language translation solution actually came out of a language barrier. And it was basically an embarrassing situation in China when his passport was stolen. He had no way of communicating with the local people. So that's sometimes what happens, right? You lose a passport, you don't know how to communicate, and all of a sudden you create a company. Companies are solutions to problems, and that's why it's so cool to meet people like Danny. So without further ado, welcome to the I Love Success podcast, Danny May.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, so can we just talk about that? What happened in China?
So what happened was I take a few steps back. My background isn't in tech, so I'm a licensed plumber. So I was a tradie, and I was in China to find some solar products for the hot water industry here in Australia. And as you said, my passport was stolen. First time in China, 4 hours after landing in Shanghai, it was stolen. So I went up to a police officer, and he didn't speak a word of English. And so I downloaded an app, which is a competitor now at the time, and just said simply, "Hello, how are you?" into it, just to try and break the ice with it, with the police officer. And it come out and translated, "Hello, I love you." So it didn't, needless to say, it didn't go down too well. But from that's where the idea come from for Lingmo. I just sat back and thought, how many other people were put in a similar position anywhere, in multiple places around the world, at any one time. So, that's where the idea come from, and, kind of put a lot of heart and soul into creating the product, because I was a plumber, and moving to the tech side took a lot of willpower to make that conversion. And today we've got a pretty good product to speak of.
Awesome. And can we just go back, when you were a kid, what was your dream? Was it to become a plumber? How did you end up being a plumber in the first place?
Um, it wasn't, my dream wasn't to become a plumber. I didn't, clearing block toilets and stuff wasn't really, when I was I think I had the usual dreams of, policeman, fireman and stuff like that. Where it come from being a plumber was, my mum wanted me to get a back, a trade background, so I'll have something to fall back on, and really went through a lot of the trades, and plumbing sort of stuck out with me in relation to jobs moving forward. It's always going to be a necessity, to clear toilets, fix leaking taps, and so on. So that's kind of where the mindset of becoming a plumber started from.
Awesome. And how long were you a plumber for?
Including like all my apprenticeship and everything, was about 16, 17 years.
Oh, so for a long time.
Yeah. I only finished plumbing about 4 years ago. Really, I was doing Lingmo and plumbing simultaneously. So Lingmo overnight, plumbing during the day. But really made the pivot or the shift to full time Lingmo about 4.5 years ago.
Cool. And as far as plumbing, did you have your own business? Did you work for another company, or like how was that?
I had a bit of both. So I had two businesses. So I moved from Sydney down to Tasmania. So anyone that knows Australia, Tasmania is right down south, and it's bloody cold, like really cold. So I started down there, and then I had to go through the mindset. Being in Tasmania, we're called mainlanders, coming from the mainland, and you sort of segregated because of that. And it took probably I was there for just under 2 years, 2 years to get the business up and going. And then I decided to come back and move up to Sydney. So I sold that business down there, moved back to Sydney, and started working for some plumbing companies here. So I've had a bit of both.
Bit of both. And plumbing is actually, it's a pretty good, you make a pretty decent amount of money, right?
Yeah, you do. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So to get your plumbing license here in Australia, it's 7 years of not college, but extra learning and on the job experience. So there's quite a bit that goes into it, and there's quite a bit of variety. So 1 minute you could be doing block drains, you could be doing a leaking tap, the next you could be doing gas, you could be doing roofs. There's a lot of things that go into it. So it is, working for someone. You get okay money. When you own your own business, that's where you get the good money. But then it's the same as owning your own business, no matter whether it's the tech, it's the plumbing, or any industry. The issue was always getting paid by the customer. That was always where the issue was. You could get good money, but getting the money from the customer was where the difficulty was.
Yeah, that's so funny. Isn't it always, right?
It's always, no matter what industry, no matter where you work or what business you have, it's always the same.
Yeah, interesting. And like, I think this is going to be cool to talk about, because, traditionally a lot of people in, regular, so to speak, trade businesses are not seen as entrepreneurs. And a lot of times, making that move to something completely different, it might be a big step, especially looking from the outside. So I think this could be very helpful for a lot of people out there now, listening and seeing this. And can you just talk about, you went to China, you got this idea, but what the fuck happens after you have an idea? You go on a trip, you lose your passport, and then, you don't have any experience in this, but you want to create, this brand and this company. Like, what's the next steps, and how, like, why did you even get started? Because I've been to vacation many times, and I was like, yeah, this is a necessity. And then you go home, and 3 days later, you forget about it.
Yeah. So I think the big thing that was that made me into sort of more the entrepreneur, plumbing entrepreneur, was when I was working for a plumber. He was my first mentor. He was heavily invested into Anthony Robbins, so he wanted me to go and do his courses and stuff like that. It took him probably about 2 years to get me to one, but I got to one, and that's where I really learned the entrepreneurial skill. And that really helped me in the pivot to moving from plumbing to tech entrepreneur and thinking different. Because as you said, I speak to plumbers now that I still know, and they just go, how the hell did you do that? Like why, what made you, what was the inspiration? We wish we could do that. And that one course that I did was like a 3-day course in Sydney, with Anthony Roberts, like, it was a mass one. There was 30,000 people there. But there was one thing that really
Unleash the power within, or
that's it. Where you do the fire walk across the hot coals and everything. So that was the one that I went to, and from that, he had a story of where he was on a chairlift with a business associate, and they were talking, and at the top of the chairlift, his business associate said to him, "I just made $500,000 going up this chairlift. How much did you make?" And he goes, "Well, I made nothing because I'm sitting here." And that's where I really started thinking with plumbing. As we said spoke about before, you can make good money, but you physically have to be on site or do the work or have people doing the work for you. Whereas, if you want to make money while you're asleep and stuff, plumbing wouldn't let me do that unless you got people working for you, and then still you would have to go out and do jobs of a night and stuff. So you had to physically be there. So that was really where the entrepreneurial side come into it. I dabbled in a few internet ventures and stuff during that period, which they failed because I was more thinking about the money, not about the product. And then what really changed with Lingmo is, that was that problem. And I was the same with you. I was always going, with the entrepreneur, I'll walk through a shopping center and you can see differences and you go, well, I could do that. You could bring that in from China and sell it for the same. You see a lot of things. But what made this was, it was the first-hand problem that I had there in China, and the sinking feeling in my heart where, Jesus Christ, I can't speak to this guy. What if I can't speak to someone? How am I going to get out of this bloody country? I just couldn't do it. So that's what really drove me into, moving into the tech space in, a bigger way. But it was a lot of hard work. Like, I went to see about 40, did a business plan, found out where the big companies were doing wrong in the language translation industry. And they were, what I found out, and it took probably someone from outside the tech industry to really hone in and just think outside the box to find out what the solution was. And I found that they were doing the translation perfect. They were translating it perfect. The speech recognition, that's where they were lacking. So if the speech input comes in wrong, the translation, it snowballs. So you get a bad translation at the end. So I really focus on the speech recognition side. Then I went and seen, I think it was 40 or so angel investors, and they all said no because I had no tech industry knowledge, and I was going up against the big players at the time. So convinced the wife, we sold the house and put it into making the products at MVP, and then brought partners on to help me commercialize the product and so on, and grow the business from there. But anyone, and for your listeners, anyone can go off and start something. It's just taking that leap of faith that you follow through. You're going to get, so I got knocked down so many times in the early days because I didn't have any tech knowledge. So I actually self-taught myself what I need to know in that industry. And for a long time, until we did a translation earpiece, which we launched in June at United Nations in 2017. Up until that point, no one in the tech industry, when I was doing products and stuff, so we're collaborating with IBM and all the dampen on the solution.
I think I lost you for a second. You mind?
Oh.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I think it's something with the internet connection here. So yeah, you said a lot of great things here. And first of all, I just want to talk about, like, so the first time your boss told you about Tony Robbins, can you just be honest? Like, what did you think the first time, and what made you actually go to an event 2 years later?
To be honest, what made me think of it the first time was I was 18 years old and gone, there is no way in friggin' hell I'm spending $3,000 to go to a conference like that. Yeah. No way. And then he just kept pushing me over because Anthony Robbins kept coming year after year to Sydney. And then he finally just gave in and goes, I'll pay for you to go, because he could see the value that it would add. And then that's when I went, and I realized once I went, the value I got. But being 18, I'd rather go out on holidays or go spend it on alcohol or, go party than spend $3,000 on the ticket to go see Anthony Robbins.
And how, like, after an event like that, like what was going on in your mind? Can you just talk about that pre and after? Like, what changed you to start thinking differently?
Um, Before it, I thought, as everyone else did, plumbers make a lot of money. I can make, I could become quite successful and wealthy within the plumbing industry, because there's so many different things. But then once I went to Anthony Robbins, what pivoted was what he said about you need, I would need to be in plumbing, making that money for a long time. And if I'm away on holidays, if I have people working for me, obviously I still make money, but not to the extent, because obviously workers generally, when you go away, the boss goes away, it sort of lacks off a bit. So that's what really stuck in my head was, if I really want to be able to support my family and support everything moving forward, that I needed to start working on, still doing plumbing, but working on products, or a business where I'm not necessarily needed all the time. So we create the product, we enhance a product, but we could be asleep and then overnight we could sell 1,000 products because it's online. That's where the real shift changes from after Anthony Robbins was, I physically needed to be what I did to make money, but to be successful and make a lot of money.
You realized that you could take yourself out of the equation, right? And like,
Yeah.
how the heck did you convince your wife to sell the house and invest in the business?
It was a, yeah, that was a hard conversation, to be honest. It was, yeah,
Leading up, can you just lead up that day? Like what, like how do you game plan to have that conversation with your wife?
um, we'll say I had a few beverages. I think we'll say the Dutch courage and a few alcohol. But it's the same as when I guess when you go to investors. This is, she's going to come back to this, but I guess when you go to investors, if you have all the pros and cons about it, and I guess she has the same mentality as me of, we want to be able to provide for our family, and she was a hairdresser, so she had to physically be. She got kind of what I was saying. She had to physically be there cutting people's hair to make money. So I guess it was just, when I say present, it's just go through everything, the pros, the cons. But I guess one of the big things was to stay in doing plumbing, so I still get the revenue or the income to support the family, while I did this. So it was more sell the house and put the money into the company, to start the product, but not really rely on that company to bring money back straight away. It's me continue plumbing, so me kind of working two jobs, and we got three boys, and all three of them, we had three sons under 7 at that time. So it was kind of explained that I would be, do my plumbing, come back, spend a couple of hours with the kids, and then do the plumbing, the Lingmo work for the next 4 or 5 hours after that. And the kind of days I really had off was Saturday afternoons and Sundays. So it was more about selling the house, putting it in, but showing that I committed the work, not just putting the money in and going, okay, well, here we go, let's wait back and sit. It's about showing the commitment to do it. And she had the same vision as what I did. And, there's been days, straight out where you sit there when I was doing plumbing, and I said, I just want to quit. I just can't keep doing this, working thing. And then she said, no, we've put the money in, you can continue doing this. And then it was vice versa. There was days where she said, look, you've got to stop doing this because you're burning yourself out. And I said, no, we're getting there. So it was sort of worked off each other. So that's what really worked well. And having someone that trusted me to make it the success it is.
Yeah, I mean, you put some skin in the game, right? But I think this is a good lesson from a lot of people listening out there, because everybody, not everybody, but most people are like, hey, I want a successful business, I want to have an online business. But then, like, it's a good lesson to learn. Maybe you'll have to stick with your job for a while, sell your house, and work for a couple of years in order to see the results. And like, not so many people are willing to do that. Like, why do you think you and your wife were willing to do that?
It's the end vision to provide for our kids. I think it was the same thing that I said before, that I learned from Anthony Robbins was and I guess it was a little bit easier because she was a hairdresser and she had to physically be cutting people's hair as well. she couldn't be doing that for the rest of her life. Me being doing plumbing, it's very physically intensive and stuff like that. So there was a certain point where you get, we want to be able to provide for our family for a long time, and physically being there was what kind of the mindset where, okay, let's give this a go. And it is a lot of hard work. It's like, we're only just starting to see the fruits now. We we partnered up with Zoom last week, actually. So for their chat system. So we have our software embedded into Zoom for when you do chats, like their Slack channel chats. Like Zoom has their own version. You can translate in any language. So we're just starting to see it come through now, because we've had a few pivots, and that's 6 years. Like, anyone that sits there and wants to be an entrepreneur and says and sees, it's like the iceberg effect. You see people successful and they go, geez, yes, I didn't know about them, but now I see them and that's where they are. They don't see all the crap that goes underneath it. And to be honest, and it's not just me, it's my partners and business partners and all our employees as well have seen us go through it. And it's been 6 years that we've gone through this. So it takes time. That's what people just got to be persevere. And again, you hear everyone say this, but I guess you got to be passionate about it, because if I wasn't passionate about it, and say I just, I'll go back a step. We had a company, or I created an app that was a photo sharing app that you could write images and any text and format that you wanted. I started that because Instagram got sold to Facebook for $1 billion. I started that because I seen that's where the money was, and I as things started getting hard, and I go, oh, well, I'm not doing this anymore. It's too hard. But with a passionate project, you stay in there for the long haul.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you see the value because you actually needed that service, And can you just talk about can you share with us, has there been any moments where you're like, hey, we're losing money, I can't do this anymore, I think I'm going to quit? Like, has there been any moments like that?
100%. If anyone says no, they're lying. And this is my book. This is me saying, you got to have the right people. That's why you say to have the right people around you to keep motivating you. There's been heaps of times where I've just said, no, it's just getting too hard. And then, especially because we pivoted from consumer products to enterprise. And that was a big pivot for us. It took us 18 months with no revenue. We've only just started coming out of that now. And that's where the Zoom, our products available on Zoom and stuff now. So during that 18 months, you get no revenue. You get a lot of people coming at you going, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And a lot of pressure. And you sit there and go, why am I doing this? And then you get people, sometimes it's my wife who sits there and not physically, but, slaps you and goes, wake up to yourself. Or it's, my business partner, Darren, he's done it heaps of times, slap up, wake up to yourself. And then, it's vice versa. Like when they're down, I go, no, we're getting there, and it's just having the right people around you to keep motivating through those downtimes, because being an entrepreneur, starting a business, especially starting a business or doing a business that you're not, when I say not qualified for, you've pivoted to. So from plumbing, so from one industry to the next, you have a lot of haters. You have a lot more downtimes than up. So and I've only just recently, really started learning this or doing this, is each up, you got to celebrate, whether it's a small thing. You celebrate those small ones, because if you don't celebrate those small ones, that's where you're going to start wanting to quit, because you go, Jesus, this is 2 years and I haven't had any ups, or, there's all been downs. So I just keep getting, hit my head against that wall. And, we say it, yesterday, you beat your head against the wall enough, the wall's going to crack. But if you're only going to hit it, a few times, it's not going to do anything. So it's perseverance, and there is a lot of downtimes, but you get through that, and then you celebrate all the small wins, and that's where you start, you get motivation.
Yeah, I love that. How do you deal with building a business, having a wife, having 3 kids? How do you deal with all that? Being a good father and also building a business, and having that type of balance when you work so much.
It's hard, especially in the early days. It was really hard. To be honest, I was there, but I wasn't there, if that makes sense. My wife was like a single mum, to be honest. So it's having a partner that's really strong, that's in it with the journey for you. So that's where, if someone's starting something, you can sit down your partner, because, straight up, I think, if I didn't have one, my wife wasn't as strong as, that's where divorces happen and stuff like that. So, and then that's where you have, that you go down that track, then the business never succeeds. So that's where, if you're starting a business, you've got a wife, kids, husband, kids, whatever it may be, sit down and you've just got to be straight up with them. There's going to, these are the downs. Let's work off the, let's prepare for the worst and plan up. Prepare for the worst, or was it plan for the worst, prepare for the best, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
It's, if you do that, it's having a strong person behind you. And I guess this isn't not a sexist thing or anything like that, but I hear it a lot, where you have these successful, like Bill Gates and people like that. They say they're success because of the women behind them. The people that are backing them, and it's the same. You see the women that they're successful. Sometimes it's the men behind them, looking after the kids. So it's hard, and we've been going through it for so long. But I guess we see it was because our kids were young at the time. They didn't go to school and stuff like that. I think it would have been, if I was to start it when they were older, it would have been a little bit more difficult, because there would have been a lot more sacrifices they would have had to give. For like up until November last year, I had my eldest son and my youngest son sleeping in the same bed. 12. Now one's just turned 13, one's just turned 9. So they were in the same bed. So for like literally 4 or 5 years. So it takes a lot on the family, but you just have the mindset of what it's going to provide to them in the future, and that's what keeps me driving.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, it is. It's all worth it. It's just hard trying to, with the kids saying, can we have this, can we have that? And you go, no, we can't, because we've got the business and stuff like that. And they see their friends getting it. I think that's where it's, that's the hardest. But, the way that, what is it? You live a life like no one wants to for a few years, so you can live a life that no one can for the rest of your life. That's sort of the mentality that I've been going on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I was a world medalist in karate. It took over 20 years of hard work, and there's so many times, injuries, you lose, you feel ridiculed, and you're down on your luck, but somewhere you find that grit, the courage to move on a little bit, and then at the end of the day, if you keep going and learning from your mistakes, I think it's very hard not to succeed for the people that are actually doing the work and having the patience. I think that's the problem we're seeing in the world. A lot of people are not doing the work, or they're doing the wrong work, and they finish or they stop too soon.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this again, you being a plumber going into a new business. Did people ever, considered you stupid just because you're going into another business? Because I see this, there's so much going on in the world now. People are looking differently, they're from different countries, there are language barriers. And I know in Sweden, a lot of immigrants, that weren't speaking the language fluently, some people treated them like they were stupid, but it was just a language barrier. So I'm curious, like, how did that happen for you, and how did you deal with that?
100%. I got slammed. People thinking that I was doing this as a get rich quick scheme and stuff like that. Nothing. I'll never forget. When I was doing plumbing, I went to clear a block drain at a customer's house, and I always talk to customers and stuff to learn what they do, just to feed off them. Do you know what I mean? And I also, when I was building the product, told them what I was doing. There was a lot of good criticism. When I say that, like, you should be doing this, should do that, constructive criticism. But there was this one gentleman that just ridiculed me to the hill, to the point where I just told him, I walked out of his house and told him to clear his own block drain, because it just got to the point where he actually just said, you need to stay in your lane and leave the tech to people like me, because he was in the tech industry. And what he meant by that was me stay in plumbing and leave this tech business to the tech people. And then I kind of said to him, well, you know what, mate, I hear what you're saying, respectfully, but if someone in the tech industry could do it, then it would be done already. It's it's thinking inside your box. You know, if you think inside your box, you know you're going to get outside your box. So I come from outside the box, moving in, and found the issues, and it come really apparent. You know, then we kind of did it over 2 or 3 years, and you know, it was sort of water off duck's back, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, whatever. You know, if you can't, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't handle criticism, you can't handle rejection, you can't handle the word no, there's no point in being an entrepreneur straight out, because that's what you get in the first couple of years. You know, once we launched our earpiece, we become viral. You know, I was in 37 of the top 40 business magazines, like online magazines around the world. And from that, that's where I really worked out and found how evil some people can be and troll. You know, they just troll you. You know, to the point where some people said, you know, leave the tech to us, go kill yourself, and you know, like death threats and all that. And you sit there now. So right now, I don't. I tend not to read. If there's an article about me, I don't read it because of the comments and stuff. I'd rather just not read it and go along my merry way and still focus on what I do, because I'm the type of person, if I start reading those negative comments, I focus on that and I get really angry, which makes it no good, one, for my health, my family. You know, they see me, you know, cracking the shits all the time, but it doesn't do the business any good either, because I focus on the wrong areas. So yeah, you know, and I guess that's if someone, it doesn't have to be from plumbing, if you're from, and it can be vice versa, someone from the tech industry going to a tradie or whatever it is, whatever you go to, anyone can do anything. Nothing's impossible. It's just, you got to be willing to take the hits. That's where it's at, because you're going to cop it.
Yeah, I mean, I had Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory on last week, and he says it so well. Unless it violates the law of physics, it is possible.
Yep.
And I mean, I agree with that. If you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to, you know, take all that criticism, can we just talk like how, like when you were walking out of that house and that douchebag or whatever you want to call him told you all these things, like how do you deal with that? Is that fire for you, or does it just feel bad? Or like how have you dealt with that? Because I know in my own life, when people have not believed in me, uh, it used to make me weaker, but now I'm a little bit more confident and it makes me stronger. So I'm curious, like, what's your, like, how was it for you, and has that changed, you know, over the years?
It has made me stronger. I think with me, it did hurt at the start. Again, you know, everything hurts when you first start out. But then when you start copping it, you get used to it. And I think for now, what it is with me is I want to prove them wrong. You know, I want to, you know, because you know we've done Zoom and we're going to the next levels. I want that guy to actually read about me in the paper or look at me on the news and go, shit, I shouldn't have said that to that guy, or you know, I was wrong. I want to prove people wrong. That's where I'm at now. And you know, it's the same with you know, if we have you know, people that want to, you know, invest in us or whatever. So in the early days, we had, you know, quite a few investors say, no, look, you know, there's 40, okay, I'll give you a classic example. There's 40 angel investors that said, no, you don't have the tech industry knowledge. No, we're not going to invest in you. Okay, you take it on the chin, but now I want to prove them wrong to show what they're actually missing out on. It actually drives me to the next level. So if it's like if someone says to a kid, you can't jump off that bridge, you know, it's, you know, physically you can't do it. What's the kid going to do? Well, I'm going to jump off that bridge to prove you wrong. That's simply, it's just the mentality. And that's where I'm at now is you say I can't do something, as we just said before, nothing's impossible. You know, it sometimes takes a lot of time, sometimes takes a lot of money, but you will get there in the end. And I'm just there to, someone criticize me, cop it on the chin, you just accept it and say, no problems. Then when you prove them wrong, you make sure that you have their phone number or their email address and just send them an email just saying, look, I just giving you an update. This is where we're at now. You know, happy to have a call to show you how I changed, like what I did to succeed in this. And you know, not be an arsehole, but just be humble about it. It's about being humble and showing them, because again, a lot of people say you can't do something because they feel that they can't do it. It's more just a fear thing. And sometimes it's because they don't know. So if you're being asked something, you go back to them and go, yeah, look what I've done, you know, and just be complete. douchebag about it yourself, then it's just going to, it makes you arrogant and egotistical. So if you go back and say, look, this is what I've done. Look, if you want to know how I did this so you can learn, happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I love that. And I had Ryan Serhant on the show from Million Dollar Listing a couple of years ago, and he actually has a folder on his computer with all, hate emails, trolls, all of that. And that's just there to give him power. Sometimes he'll go in and read it. And I think that's actually a pretty cool idea, because I think, in order to achieve success, even Aristotle said it, to avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, basically. So it's just part of the territory, right? I know as an athlete, when I lost, you know, I had my real friends, my real teammates, and I had people that were not my real friends, but they were just there when I was winning. But after I lost, they came, oh, I feel so bad, but I could see that they were happy in a way.
Yeah.
But that just made me stronger in a way. It, of course, it hurt and it sucked, and I was so pissed at myself that I gave them that opportunity to be happy because I lost. But it also made me train harder and become better. And I guess that's, if it works for improvement, it's good, right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, everything hurts. Like, so if anyone says, oh, nothing hurt, you take those hurts and you take the challenge, and that's where you prove these haters wrong. Because one thing that I found when you start, we're getting to the successful sort of thing, and it's more about people love about the journey, about going from plumbing to tech. As you go through it, you have a lot of people hating you, a lot of criticism, and you just take it, you take the hurt, and then you focus that energy in the right areas. Because in the early days, I'm not going to lie, I did focus the energy in the wrong areas of, doubting myself, hating myself, and all that type of stuff. And it just did no good it does no good to your mental health, does no good to your physical health, no good to your family and stuff like that. So if you channel that anger in the right way, then that's where you start seeing those little successes, and that's where you celebrate those little successes to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think you have to go through that to learn, right? I mean, nobody's born just, like mentally strong. Like some people maybe have it a little bit innate than others, but how do you get stronger? By exposing yourself to all these challenges and, dealing with shit the way you weren't supposed to, and realizing that this might not have been the best way of dealing with it. And I'm glad you learned and improved. Unfortunately, some people don't learn and improve until they have hit rock bottom, or have a big divorce or lose everything. So I'm glad you were able to adapt and overcome, and that's basically what this show is about, to show that anybody can do anything if you want, and if you're willing to learn from people, learn from yourself, and evolve. And one thing that I want to talk about, when did you quit plumbing?
About 4.5 years ago, so not that long ago.
Do you,
in the essence of time, yeah.
yeah, but do you remember the last day as a plumber?
Yeah, I do.
Can you just talk about that?
So the last day as a plumber, I did the usual day. Because I was working for someone then. They knew it was my last day, so they gave me all the crappy jobs, literally all the crappy jobs, because they knew it was my last day.
How nice.
But I know. What else do you expect? It was once because I had the car, they dropped me home. I've got to be honest, the pivot from full-time plumber to full-time, CEO and tech entrepreneur was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was, right to this day, I still get up at 4:30 in the morning, go to the gym just because it's, I've done it for so many years. So I just get up and go to the gym to keep my, I get all my exercise out done in the morning, because if I left it to the night, I wouldn't do anything. So I get up nice and early and do it still, in the tradie hours. But it actually took me probably 2 months to really get into the swing of it. And what kind of snapped it into line was, we had a family holiday booked to Thailand, and we went to Thailand, and that was probably about 2 weeks before I finished plumbing to when we went to Thailand. That 2 weeks I was lost. I knew what I had to do, but I was used to doing everything overnight, not doing it during the day, and I was lost. So it took that holiday, that break for 10 days, to really snap me out of it and go, you're not a plumber anymore. This is what you do. And then when I come back, started executing everything during the day, instead of overnight. So it was hard during that transition, but it's you know again, I still feel like I've got to be doing stuff with my hands and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it is a tough transition. If I was in the tech industry and I moved from my job to doing this, it probably wouldn't have been so hard. But moving from one industry to the next full time, that's where it was difficult. But overcome it and seeing the challenges, and again, that was the people around me that helped me overcome that.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like how did you, like, when did you guys get the first traction and why was it? I know you talked about it was the voice recognition, but how did you get the first traction, a good client, and now like getting a deal with Zoom, for example?
So the first traction really took, we had our apps and consumer apps available in the marketplace. So we had that probably for about 6 months, and we were starting to get good traction with that, but we we're going up against the big players, which could give it away for free. So when we had our first real big, the big traction was when we designed and developed this earpiece that we launched at United Nations. So we did a big press release with IBM, so a joint press release, and I'd never forget. So we had a heading. So the press release didn't change in the text. The heading just changed. So the first heading was Australian startup takes on big players in language translation industry. Didn't get picked up by any journalists or anyone like that. So they called me up, and I was literally on my way to Geneva. I was at the airport, never forget it. And she called me up and said, look, we want to change the heading. I said, okay, what do you want to change to? She said, Australian plumber invents world first or smart translation earpiece. I said, okay. I said, then people can actually know I'm a plumber. She goes, yeah. I said, okay, all right, well, let's give it a go. By the time I landed in Geneva, it went ballistic. Like, it went viral. I did one interview with Business Insider, then it was picked up by Forbes, Wired, all the TechCrunch, all the big industry people. And that's where, again, I seen a lot of the haters come towards me, but that's where we started seeing a lot of traction. And then these bigger companies come to us and said, look, we love what you're doing. We love your software. Can you alter it to suit our company and our company needs? And we could, but the time and the cost to do that was astronomical because it was based on consumers, not enterprise. So that's where we started. We sort of went along a merry way. Then we had we had the earpiece, and then we found out, it was a little bit cumbersome for people in the street trying to give it to a stranger and put it on their ear. So we designed a smartwatch, which overcome that. Then the bigger companies just kept coming to us because it was kind of a niche market where the consumer side was taken up, it was saturated by big players, but the enterprise side, it was kind of a niche market. There wasn't too many people building solutions for customer engagement, customer experience and stuff like that for communication. So we pivoted, then we made the decision to pivot our software to be focused on enterprise. And that's where, it took 18 months, and that was where the a couple of the dark times come. And from that, we have big companies coming to us now, like a Zoom, and can we integrate this? Yep, no worries, because we've built it to scale at an enterprise level so they can better serve their customers. And that's where we're starting to see the traction just now, because we launched our 5 products 2 months ago. We only finished them 2 months ago from the pivot. So, and I guess, with COVID and what's happening now, if we hadn't pivoted then to focus on enterprise, things for us would be a lot different, because there's no international travel, which means there's no need for translation watches, earpieces, apps, to communicate. So it's all gone online, where companies need to talk to their customers online to keep the engagement up. So that pivot really helped us, but the initial brand recognition was from that launch that we did in 2017.
Love that. And I love the fact we were talking about Australian plumber, I think that is so cool. And a lot of times we try to hide things with ourselves because we think it's going to make us weaker, but it actually makes us stronger. Like when we're honest with who we are, we can really connect with our audience and the people, right?
100%. That was one of the things that I would say ashamed of, because I was going to a tech industry and I was a plumber. That's one of the things that I was, when I say ashamed of it, I didn't want people thinking of our product and go, bloody plumber has done this product, it's going to be crap. I didn't want that. That's what I didn't want. But people seen the product for what it was, and then at the right time, we introduced it to say that I was a plumber, and then that's where people seen the product for what it was, and then they go, bloody hell, look at what this plumbers, and he's not just me. Again, there's a team behind me that are awesome. It's assembling the team that created my vision as well. But they see, look at what these guys have done, and look at their background. That right there makes nothing's impossible.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what's your definition of success, Danny?
My definition of success is, for me, again, it's not a monetary side, but it's, again, one side is to provide for my family, so they can provide for their families and so on.
What does that mean? To create generational wealth? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. So that's one part of it, but the other part is, and I guess for me, for this to be success is to, and this is going to be cliche, and a lot of people are going to go, yeah, okay, but it's our product. When I find success in the business that I'm doing now, the business that we're doing now, is for our product to be able to help someone that's in need, that can't communicate any other way. That's what I find success. And then with that, the monetary and the wealth generation from that will come. So my form of success is it's about assisting people in what they do and making their life better. To me, that's success, and then the money will come.
Yeah, of course.
Before I focused the other way around. I focused on the money and hoping that the product would be a success, bring people's lives. And that obviously failed in the early days, like in the last products. So I shifted it, and I guess I think it was Steve Jobs or someone that said, if when you have a product that can touch someone's heart, it's limitless. And when you're in a foreign country and you can't communicate, your heart sinks. I've been in that position, and I know a lot of your listeners would have been in that position where, just to order a coffee, but if you think of someone that your family member's hurt in Thailand and you need to tell them that they're allergic to penicillin, but you can't communicate, that is a life or death situation. So for me, success is someone to be able to communicate that so they can save a life, for example.
Yeah. And, one thing that I thought about is, how did you get your passport back?
That was, so all I wanted to do was, with the police officer, was to ask where the consulate was. And anyone's been to Shanghai knows it's 20, there's actually more people in Shanghai than what there is in entire Australia. So the guy I was with said, look, it could be 4 hours in the opposite direction. All I wanted was get my passport back for the Australian consulate. Finally found someone that could, the police officer seen that I was trying, so the shits didn't get too bad. So he kind of calmed down a bit and it helped me to the consulate. It was 100 meters down the road. So then I went down there, got an emergency passport, an emergency visa, and then I could leave the country. But and funnily enough, I had to, 2 weeks later, I was getting married in Hawaii. So we're eloping in Hawaii. So I had to call my wife and just say, can you help me try and find the consulate? And then I got a gobful from that, because we're getting married in Hawaii in 2 weeks. How are you going to get your passport to go there? And I'm like, okay, here we go. So, so I got the emergency passport and got out.
Yeah. Life is amazing, isn't it?
It is. Again, it's one of those things, you just cop it on the chin and you just move on. And I think the one thing that I've really started to believe, everything, it took a lot to get to that stage, but things are starting to happen.
I love that. And what makes you happy, Danny?
What makes me happy now is seeing the kids happy. On the weekend we went motorbike riding, and they, seeing them riding their motorbikes and enjoying and being happy, and my wife happy. That's what makes me happy at the moment. And just people around me, because there was a time in the early days where I was a miserable bastard, because I'm focused on plumbing and then business and worried about money and stuff. So I was miserable. So now it's me seeing my family happy around me is what makes me happy.
Yeah. And if you could give yourself some advice, I know you work very hard, and you said it yourself, you were miserable during that time. Like, what is there any other way, or do you have to kind of, shut down and just get shit done?
Um, it's kind of shut down to get shit done. To be honest, in my mindset, it's not for everyone.
People don't
um,
want to listen to that.
I know.
Can you just, it's so funny because it, like, this is the truth, right? It is going to cost you to create something, it will cost probably both money, time, energy, maybe unfortunately relationships and all, a whole bunch of other things. uh, but I mean, for me, I always go back to, like, what is important to me. So even if I work hard, I shut down, I won't forget at least my family, my wife,
Mhm. Yeah, that's the thing. When I say shut down, I shut down and head down, ass up with my work.
Yeah.
But there's the thing is, and I think, because I was miserable and seeing the wife miserable and stuff like that around me, it is spent making sure you have downtime, as you just said, for your family. I was working 7 days a week for like a couple of years and stuff, and had minimal time for my family, and it started to affect. What really hit home was my young son. He was 6 months old at the time, and we went to one of my mates' weddings up in Queensland, and that was probably the first downtime I had for a while. And it was just my wife and I and our 6 month old, so Jet, and he started doing something, and I don't know what it was, but I said to the wife, I said, "How? Wow, when did he start doing that?" She goes, "Like 3 months ago," and that's when reality hit, and you go,
Yeah.
"Jesus Christ!" Like when I got home, I said, put him to sleep. So fed him and help do a little stuff for like half an hour. Okay, it's time for him to go to bed. Put him to bed so I can go to work. And that's what it was like for the first 6 months of his life. And then that really just hit home. And you sit there and go, "Nah, okay, there's got to be some time for the family and downtime," which I was Saturday afternoons and Sundays. So what I enjoy now is going to watch my kids play rugby league, union, and stuff, football.
Yeah.
One, because it stops me from playing it and get injured, so I get to watch them. But watching them do their sports and stuff, and just sort of having the family time. So like on Sundays, I turn my phone off now. There's no point in me having it on, and just go do something with the kids and stuff like that. So it is having the downtime, and if you don't have family or kids and stuff, still having that downtime, because you will get burned out. So have Sundays off and just go have a coffee, sit at the beach, or go to a park where, if you're not near the beach, like we're near the beach. So go do something that you love for one day, and you'll see how energized you come back on Monday morning for the work week.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that totally. And the truth is, some of my best ideas have come, I write a lot and do that as well. So it's when I feel good, when I'm on vacation, I get an idea, or when I take a walk, or when I work out. So of course, we need to head down, work hard, but you also take a step back and kind of see what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, I love Bruce Lee because I'm a martial artist, and he said the best way how I try to see a fight, it's by going above and watch it, almost like I'm watching from above myself fighting, because all of a sudden you see everything. For people who have seen UFC, everybody knows exactly what's coming, but once you're in the fight and you have that opponent in your face, it's not that easy. So it's good to get some distance, right?
100%. Yeah. We got rugby league, so I'm into rugby league and stuff here. And it's the same. When you're watching it from the stands, you can see where the gaps are, but when you're in the field, you can't see it. So I think one other thing that I would suggest people do is, some people don't like doing it, some people do, but exercise, because that really. So I go, as I said, I wake up at 4:30 every morning, and I go to the gym or go for a walk. And in that time, I do a lot of thinking, and with the walk, you sort of, it de-stresses you. And if I've had a bad day, I'll probably go to the gym overnight, just hit the boxing bag to let some tension out.
Yeah.
It's If I don't go to the gym in the morning, I feel like I've had 30 beers and I'm hungover.
Yeah.
It's what I think it's the endorphins and stuff like that that really gets you up and motivated for the day. So, and you don't have to be a fitness guru. You don't have to be anything like that. It's just go for a 10, 15-minute walk. That's it.
I have one question to you. So you completely turn off your phone on Sundays?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Was that
I actually.
scary the first time?
It is. It is. So what I do is I put it on flight mode, and then I kind of put it back out on Sunday night, and I try. If I get emails, I categorize them into their folders so I don't see. Because my problem is I'm kind of OCD. If I see 30 messages on what email or whatever it is, I'll have to look through them all. So and then read it, and then if something bad comes through, I'll have the shits for that entire day. So that's why I sort of stopped doing that, and it's good going motorbike riding on the weekend. Where we go, there's no phone reception, so I don't need to turn it off. I don't even take my phone out of the car. So it is scary, but I guess it's the same as anything. Everything's scary when you first do something, and then when you get used to it, it becomes second nature.
Yeah, I mean, we're too connected now. We're so connected that we're disconnected. And I mean, I think that's, something that we need to do more, be more present, and that's why I love doing this podcast, because for an hour or two I can just be focused and talk. This is rare sometimes, even when you're out eating with friends. Everybody's on their phone. They have to take the perfect Instagram picture on the hamburger that nobody
That's
really
it.
cares
No
about.
one cares about. Yeah.
Isn't it funny, like, how when I think about, like, who, like, in 100 years, all the hamburgers I've seen on Instagram, how is that improving my life?
I know. Apart from making you hungry and you want a hamburger, that's
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing. But I've got to be honest. I don't even have Instagram. The only thing I have is Facebook and LinkedIn. I have Twitter, but I don't use it that much. I use mainly LinkedIn for the business side, and Facebook just to for kids videos on when they're motorbike riding and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I don't, because if I started getting into Instagram and stuff like that, I'll be the same. Okay, someone takes a picture of their cat, climbing the tree, and you go, okay, all right, the cat's climbing the tree. What's how's that going to? Yeah, exactly. How's that going to improve my life? If the cat maybe gone up the tree and someone climbed up to get it, okay, maybe that might be a bit inspirational. You have to climb up and rescue a cat, but apart from that, what else is it going to do?
Yeah. Danny, I'm curious, just have one final question to you. This is something that I ask all my guests. And before I ask you, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for, showing other people out there that you don't have to stay in your fucking lane. There is no lane. You create your own lane. And I think that's something that I admire about you a lot. And that's what I love to see. I want to meet somebody today or tomorrow, just like you. They say, like, yeah, I'm in construction now, but I want to start a tech company. Or maybe I'm in a tech company, I want to go to real estate. Or if you're 30 and you always loved dancing, yeah, go dance. We are putting all these labels on ourselves, and it makes me so angry. Live, because people are going to have opinions no matter what. And it's actually good. Just learn, if people have opinions, it means that you're on the right track. It's basically positive feedback.
It's positive feedback, even though it might not sound like it. That's the way that I see it is the sun's always going to rise tomorrow. If you have a bad day today, and again, this took a long time for me to realize this. You have a bad day today, tomorrow is a new day. Pop it on the chin, go through tomorrow. And you may have a week worth of bad days, and you may have a month worth of good days. You just take the good days when they come, and the bad days, you just deal with them. And one of the things that I've learned is, especially going from one industry to the next, do one thing at a time. If you have a list of 100 things, don't try and do 100 things at once, because trust me, you will burn out, and you won't get anywhere. You'll be a week down the track and you've got 300 because you've got none done. If you do one of them, you just do. What I tend to do is I do the hard ones in the morning because I'm more focused, and leave the easy ones of an afternoon.
Love that. And the final question that I wanted to ask you is, for people that want to get started on their dream, our big mission is to help at least 10 million people to go after their dreams. So for everybody's listening right now, all of you are so important to me, and I really want you to live the best life. So listen carefully now, because Danny is going to drop some truth bombs. No pressure. And what's the first thing they can do to kind of get started on their dreams?
Take the leap of faith. Again, just do it. Don't. When someone, it's like someone going to get a tattoo, for example. You sit there, you design it up, you get it at the tattoo shop, you're awesome, you're pumped. You wait 2 days and you go, I'm not going to get that now. If you wait and you think, my problem is I don't think. I just go off and do it and then realize maybe whatever consequences there are. I realize it as I'm going, because if I start thinking, I second guess myself and I don't do it. So just believe in yourself. The one thing that I would say is if you have a wife, a husband, or whatever, and you're going to do that, talk to them first about it. Because if you just go, fuck it, and off you go and you don't talk to them about it, you're going to have a lot more problems down the track than what it is from the business. You're going to have business problems, you're going to have marital or partner problems. So just be honest with them. That's one of the big things.
Love that. And also be you, be yourself. Look at Danny, like once you guys were totally transparent with who you were and also had a great product, right? Now things started happening. So Danny, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Peter. Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching and listening. If you're still here, that's amazing. I hope you learned something new today. And check us out at ilovesuccess.co. Give us a review. We have more than 200 conversations now with incredible people from all over the world. I feel so lucky that I get to meet all these people and, share their journey with you. I download it into my own brain and try to take some things from every person to improve my life. I hope you do the same. Until next time, stay awesome and go after your dreams. Thanks again and see you guys soon.